Okay, so welcome. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We're going to share today about is your brand at risk due to cultural dissonance? And talk a little bit about that. Would love to get some input through the chat. So if you could let me know, where you are dialing in from today, that would be amazing. Get my technology going here. Okay, so today, again, we're going to talk about brand and cultural dissonance. And, what is it? Why is it important? How do you identify it? And what do you want to do about it? First, my name is Tammy Ebright. I am a performance improvement consultant and certified in multiple sciences. I'm a mom to two amazing humans. And have been in sales for over 30 years now. And it looks like somebody did just comment in that. Chat seems to be disabled. Oh, okay. So you'll have to use the Q&A. I don't really know how to, let me see if I can fix that. Okay, so you'll have to use the Q&A to be able to talk to me. I'm sorry about that. It's been a minute since I did a Zoom webinar, so please be patient with my technology. Okay, so, all right, so, what is it? Cognitive dissonance, brand dissonance, and cultural dissonance. So dissonance, if you think about musical dissonance, in the case of American Idol, maybe somebody that didn't make it forward, it's a dissonance of notes that typically results in off-key singing. Cognitive dissonance is the emotional tension due to holding two different beliefs, or it could be the lack of consistency between attitudes and behaviors. And, for example, let's say that there's a director in your organization and he berates somebody in a staff meeting in front of everybody. You know that it is wrong to publicly humiliate somebody, but you really feel powerless to do anything about it. And you fear that speaking up could cause you to get into trouble somehow. So to manage your feelings of dissonance, you tell yourself, even if I did speak up, nothing would change, so that justifies your silence. Or maybe you think, the director, he really shouldn't have lost his temper, but man, that employee, they're pretty annoying. And the director's job is super stressful. I'm sure he didn't mean any real harm. And so again, this is how bad behavior in the workplace really takes shape. So brand dissonance happens because of disconnect between a company's marketing team and what's actually happening inside the organization with the operations. Many factors contribute to this lack of connection, which could be due to poor leadership. But in many cases, the problem usually comes down in one way or another to a lack of information, a lack of data. So let's say, for example, your company is a chain of regional healthcare clinics. You got a really good marketing campaign that's going out, great website, radio spots, digital advertising, social media, the whole 9 yards. The theme of your campaign is "We Go the Distance." It's really beautiful. It's branded fabulously, and it features very helpful clinic staff who unravel, patient insurance issues. They help elderly patients to the car, and maybe they stay late when the little boy just broke his arm, can't quite make it by closing time. Sounds really great, right? The problem is, because none of that is actually happening at the point of service and delivery, your clinic may be known for some really positive aspects, but like convenient locations, maybe short waiting times, but it's also known for less than friendly staff and examinations that feel very rushed or incomplete from the patient's perspective. At the end of the day, your brand is suffering from, and I am so sorry, I just accidentally closed my presentation because I had all this stuff up on my screen. Okay, let me get that relaunched here. Hopefully it'll be better this time. Thank you for your patience. All right, present. All right, second time's a charm, right? No third time's needed, just second time. Okay. Okay, so all right, so cultural dissonance. Cultural dissonance is when executives communicate one thing, yet they're creating an experience for employees that are contrary to the stated values. So an example might be, we have a people-centric organization, but the experience inside the company are leaders that are belittling their teammates and talking behind their backs. Or even worse, maybe they're calling people out on, a company-wide sales call because they aren't wearing company branded shirts and they think it's funny, but the people behind the scenes are like embarrassed because they're being specifically called out. Leaders must make a must be deliberate about identifying and reconciling any differences between their cultural elements that are necessary to ensure ethical success. In the experience that employees are having, have you ever experienced cultural dissonance in your career? If you could let me know in the Q&A, that would be awesome. And actually, I have a poll. I had a poll. I probably don't have it. Oh, I do still have it. Good. Okay. I am going to launch a poll. And I'm not sure if you can see that or not. Okay, obviously. Okay, so somebody has answered yes. Awesome. And some no's. Okay, awesome. Okay. So a couple people have, a couple people haven't. No, it's really stressful when you do, because I definitely have experienced that in a few different organizations in my career. So organizational culture is defined as the underlying beliefs, assumptions, values, and ways of interacting that contribute to the unique social and psychological environment of an organization. And this is our values, beliefs, behaviors. So an organizational beliefs, they're really part of the culture. A belief is a conclusion about how the world works, and beliefs really direct our future actions. So an example would be, if I believe in coaching and that it helps people to become more effective, I will invest in coaching. However, If I believe that coaching is a waste of time and money, then I will not invest. There's a real need in our country, our corporate environments, for positive organizational cultures. It is really, it's a really huge problem. Employees must feel safe in order to really contribute on a high level. And so in order for members of an organization to feel like they can fully contribute to the success of the company, they must feel this sense of safety, safety to use their voice, safety to be protected, safety to come up with and share ideas and know that those ideas will be embraced and not rejected. And really they're there to help renovate. I think we all know that on a high level, that our team and the cost of replacing employees is super expensive. But I don't think that in action, this is always seen and people don't always feel it inside organizations. So it's really important to, show the people and show your community inside your organizations how much you care. So cultures that create an environment of cultural dissonance, it eliminates the capacity of their members to help their culture evolve towards the positive, towards the goals. So some examples of cultural dissonance, and keep in mind that when people are confused, they cannot function on a high level. So executives may communicate one thing, yet they're creating an experience for the employees that is really contrary to that. Maybe the leadership is eliminating their capacity for the staff to be able to really help the culture evolve towards the organization's goals. So brand dissonance happens when a customer's experience is different from the brand's promise. Where culture dissonance is when an organization says one thing, but does another. So, why is this important? So a study done by the CMO Council, which that's the Chief Marketing Officer Council, states that 84% of CMOs do not believe that their customer experience fulfills their brand promise. So some examples of cultural dissonance, they're struggling to retain customers. The experience fell short on the promise that was made, and they're not getting, repeat business. Or maybe, which maybe leads to eventual reduction in new prospects. So you're not getting as much new business because the word on the street is that you don't follow through with your promises. And the other thing that really happens when you're having cultural dissonance is people quit. You have a lot of turnover, and then you start to struggle to attract new hires because, maybe it gets out there on Glassdoor or Google that, your company is difficult to work with, and there is a lot of chaos and confusion there. The internet now makes it really hard for companies to not treat their employees in a very proactive way because it's going to get out there and people are going to find out. So all of this really does lead to financial loss. So, how does it happen? Brand dissonance is the result of poor management or leadership, an internal disconnect, and lack of data. So poor management or leadership can really be mitigated through training and assessing leaders through skills assessments versus, just promoting based on how well someone does in their current role and not taking into consideration if this person has the capacity to be a good leader. There also could be a disconnect between marketing or sales along with operations and service. And again, the lack of data, that might be customer surveys, internal metrics, social media, etc. So cognitive dissonance in the workplace, again, cognitive dissonance describes the emotional tension that arises when a person becomes aware of simultaneously holding two conflicting beliefs. And when the individual detects the existence of a marked lack of consistency between the attitudes or behaviors. So dysfunctional workplaces are often led by those who say one thing while doing another, and are really hotbeds for the conditions that give rise to these uncomfortable feelings of cognitive dissonance. All right, so here's some, staff symptoms of cognitive dissonance: stress, apathy, anger, unmotivated, and uncommitted. These are the people that are, on their breaks or in the evening time, or even maybe during work time. They're out there, they're looking for other jobs because they are just completely stressed and confused by the environment. Why does it persist? Well, creating an environment that is psychologically safe, it really takes time and effort. Board members sometimes, along with staff, know that there is a problem, but they're not really sure how to fix it. And then, there is also that sometimes some leaders really benefit still from the dissonance, that's happening. An example of that might be you have a top producer that's super toxic, he's stressing everybody out in the organization, yelling, talking loudly, cussing on the phone. It makes it very distracting for other employees. But because it's a top producer who's earning the company lots of money, the leader looks the other way. The challenge is that when there is a toxic employee or leader, it's only takes time before the breakdown of the mental health of the people that are surrounding. And then that causes the cognitive and the cultural dissonance. So how do you identify that you have a problem? Well, time changes everything. Think about, when was the last time your brand promise was visited? What is the consistency of your messaging versus the customer experience? And how siloed is your organization? A silo appears when a group of people, they don't share information, goals, tools, priorities, or processes with other groups. They're just in their own lane. They're not sharing. It's not collaborative. This type of mindset presents challenges across the entire company. It is also shown that the company doesn't incentivize inclusiveness among their teams. So again, think of the changes that have happened since you last revisited your brand promise. In the last 10 years, actually the last 3 years, we've had some major shifts with the pandemic and the remote workforce. But, wearable electronics came out in 2014. Then we had our pandemic where we all went home and we learned how to be remote. And then there is also the artificial intelligence that's really becoming popular here, even this year, even though, we've been talking about it now for 5 years. Chat GPT is, big out there currently. So how do you assess how your customers are experiencing your company? Customer surveys, social media feedback, employee feedback, maybe the Google reviews. And again, checking out that Glassdoor to be able to see what past employees are saying about your company is really important. So organizational silos in business, again, is when a company has groups of experts separated by department, specialization, or location. It's a pretty common approach The problem starts when employees aren't just separated physically, but when they pursue department goals instead of company goals. The term organizational silos also refers to the stovepipe organizations where sharing information and communicating is very scarce. The company is organized in a way that it's difficult for information to flow because let's say that one department doesn't really want to leak its information. And this really creates chaos and confusion. When communication is scarce in big business, achieving the same goals and looking at the big picture becomes a really daunting task. And think about the so-called turf wars, usually between departments that can start. A competition within your organization, that is something that everyone loses. So identifying cultural dissonance. Are you encouraging people to share feedback? Are you receiving feedback openly? And are you acting on that feedback? It's one thing to say, hey, yeah, let us know, like, give us some feedback. But are you taking that action step to implement those actions or those ideas that the employees are sharing? Are you even acknowledging the employee and saying, hey, thanks for the great feedback. We're going to really look into that. You know, a lot of times employees want to share and can see things that other leaders may not be able to because they're there in the weeds. So listening to what's going on from each person is really huge. So here are some questions to contemplate. With an honest inquiry with your leadership, does your cultural values encourage employees to contribute to the organization's success? Or are you just feeding information down at people? Did the staff help to develop your mission, vision, and values? I mean, did you get buy-in on that? Did you ask for input? How often are your leaders having one-to-ones with their direct reports? I know that I've worked at many organizations where the only time I had any kind of conversations with the next level up was if I needed something and I was reaching out. Proactive communication and building relationships starts within your organization. We all want to think about how we can get more referrals or how we can build business and get it in, but you need to be winning and building relationships with each of your employees on a regular basis. And then our exit interviews completed by a neutral party. So sometimes companies will have a direct report do an exit interview. Well, how do you give real feedback to the person if that person is the stressor, but they're the one doing the exit interview? Your organization may not even know that there's a problem because, that person, even if they say, hey, I didn't like this, and this, is that going to be communicated? Probably not. So the problem is the higher you ascend in leadership, the less likely people are comfortable at being forthright with you. So leaders must explore all levels of the organization and really to determine if people are having an experience that aligns with the culture's values. So organizational beliefs, some aspirational features shared by the culture could be integrity, teamwork, customer focused, accountability, innovation. So beliefs are really seen as truths rather than opinion. So diversity of thought is really critical to challenging beliefs as truths. So as an example, if one of the organization's beliefs is teamwork and collaboration, but you aren't asking for input from the team, or following through on the input that you receive, is that really of value? Or is it just fluff for the website or the walls of your company? Like, are you really living your organization's values? So organizational belief examples. So some examples would be, we can do anything we put our minds to. So this generates a willingness to experiment and move into new markets. But sometimes we might have unrealistic goals and plans. We are too big to fail. This breeds arrogance and a lack of customer empathy. Sheer willpower and brute force will allow us to push through things. So strong execution with bullying behavior, both internally and externally. More is always better. This is a continuous stretch with poor prioritization and can really lead to burnout. So what do you do? So Richard Branson says, if you take care of your employees, they will take care of your business. You have to make a brand promise that is authentic with your customer experience. You need to make sure that you are correcting any areas of disparity and refining your brand promise. At the end of the day, we all want to be connected, and proactive communication makes people feel connected. Making sure that departments are connected to each other and ensuring a unified brand strategy along with your messaging that is good internal as well as external. And you want to develop culture-based feedback. You need to gain clarity and awareness around your organization. Awareness is huge in our companies, in ourselves, in others. Like, awareness, I think, is just the number one soft skill that we can build. So remember, everything starts at the top and then it trickles down. You have to determine whether your current culture is helping or hurting your long-term goals. Make sure that you're identifying any cultural dissonance, like say what you mean and mean what you say. Restore and protect psychological safety. To get the best from your team, they have to feel safe and protected inside your organization. This is not an annual survey. This is work. This is weekly, at least, work where you are connecting with people, asking for input, and really growing your brand in a more authentic way. Encouraging growth mindsets, like, are your people, are they looking to grow? And as you're hiring new people, that's a great question to ask, potential hires. Like, do you have a growth mindset? What's the last thing that you studied? They don't have to be always striving to do something new each week, but somebody that is willing to learn and grow is a huge asset to your organization. At a micro level, you want to think about your company, department, and team meetings. How are those laid out? And are they encouraging feedback? Having regular, consistent, scheduled one-to-ones, and figuring out a way for anonymous feedback to be possible so that people can feel safe to share when there is something going on that you need to know about. One of the ways that I've seen this done is through some organizational surveys or maybe leadership 360 surveys that are facilitated by a third party, like my company, Unleash Your Amazing. So changing beliefs. Changing beliefs help you to change culture. Essentially, engaging your team needs to be intentional, like you would do a marketing campaign. So the intentional, consistent, that's the keyword there, consistent, a coordinated communication process throughout your company. Again, the same as an effective marketing campaign. So changing beliefs, changing the shared beliefs within a culture is as difficult as changing the beliefs of a customer towards a brand. It is really going to take time and patience. The beliefs do not change, nor the behavior. If the beliefs do not change or the behavior that they drive, your company could have some turbulent times ahead. Your brand and culture won't change unless you take conscious effort towards that. So your brand must deliver what it promises. You must have both brand and culture resonance for success. And your culture must be consistent and authentic. So thank you for sharing your time with me today. I would love to have any questions. I know that, sorry, the chat wasn't available. I do have an organizational dissonance checklist that will go out with the replay. So I'll make sure that I get that to you this afternoon. If you have any questions, if you want to hit the Q&A and ask, that would be awesome. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Thank you so much for joining today and your patience through my technology challenges. I hope to be doing more of these webinars here in the future as I just relaunched my company, Unleash Your Amazing, and look forward to having conversations with each of you. I don't see any questions, so I hope that each one of you have a super amazing day. Bye-bye.